Call to order the meeting and public hearing on our millage rate. Need approval of the agenda and a second, or a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? It's 4-0. All right, we'll turn it over to the main attraction, Mr. Tom Gray.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hollowell. Okay, we'll go through the presentation of the millage rate, and the documents that support this are available on the board agenda website if anyone needs to see the calculations. All right, the schedule for adopting the millage rate starts with tonight's first public hearing. We had the public hearings today, first and second public hearings today, and then the third public hearing will be August 21st at 6 o'clock, and then on August 21st we plan to adopt the millage at that same meeting. Following that, we pass it on to the county commissioners for their approval. Looking at the gross digest, which is part of that documentation that's listed on the website, reassessments of real property increased 5.7%. Growth in real property increased by 2.3%. Motor vehicles actually have gone down 16.8 million, but that's due to the change into the title ad valorem tax system that we're still working through. Overall, the gross digest increased 468 million, which is about 7.6%. And if you discount it for the motor vehicle change, it's 7.9% in the change in digest. When looking at exemptions, exemptions increased 115 million, about 10%. And that means that exemptions equate to 18.9% of the gross digest. The net digest was left at increased 353 million, which is about a 6.9% increase. The rollback rate was calculated at 18.35 mils. We're proposing 19.25 mils, which is a quarter mil decrease. And just as an example, you can go on the website and see, and this was published in the newspaper. Excuse me, my mouse was not working correctly. The 5-year history of the digest and showing the values at the top, the maintenance and operations, tax calculations in the middle, and the bond tax calculations down at the bottom. Okay. This is a graphical representation of the 5-year digest showing the gross digest, net digest, and the exemptions. You can see that it's on a steady trend up. The gap between the gross digest and the net digest is increasing a little bit, and that has to do with the exemptions. This shows the trend on the exemptions over the last, say, 20 years, when for a long time we were around 11% or below 11%, but then around 2006 we started to see a pretty steady increase in exemptions as a percent of the gross digest. We had to calculate the revenue based on what the budget was. So the total budget is $229.5 million, and we're reducing the millage to 19.25 mils. So the property tax would be, what we budget is $104.4 million, but now that we have the digest, we see that the projected revenue for that is about $103.2 million, so it's slightly under our budgeted revenues. Motor vehicle is affected a little bit by the millage, and we are anticipating $1.2 million in projected revenues from motor vehicles. The debt service, we're going to have the millage go to, it says remains, but it's actually the rollback rate of 1.271 mils, and that will bring in $6.8 million compared to a budget of 6.4. So the proposed millage rates for the 2019 digest, the maintenance operation is 19.25 mils, and the bond millage rate is 1.271. Just to explain what the rollback rate is, it's essentially the rollback is the millage rate that, except for the change in reassessments, we would bring in the same amount of tax money as the previous year. So you would have to reduce the millage based on the reassessments. We have to also compare that for two things after we do the advertisement, for what it would, how it affects people who have a homestead property and a non-homestead property. So when we look at that, which we proposed a millage of 19.25 mils, that's 0.9 mils above the rollback rate, so that's a 4.9% increase, the way the state has us calculate that increase. So on an average home, that homestead property of $300,000, that's $106.20. For the average non-homestead property, it would, of $275,000 in value, it's $99. So that 0.9 mil equates to, in total, $4.83 million in revenue. This is a history of the millage rate for both M&O and bond, and 20 is the maximum mills for M&O, and we started reducing that in 2016 and continue to try to work that down. And then you can see the bond millage rate as well, going back that far, which we are also has a downward trend. Okay, so if I have any questions from the board.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
It's now time for public comment. The board will not permit anyone to become personally abusive of an individual student, board members, or board employees. The board will take comments and questions under advisement, and responses, if needed, will be provided by the superintendent. Just please come to the podium and state your name and address.
Okay, well, I'm not sure what all is going on. I was looking for this place and couldn't find it. My name's Elena Perez. I live in Peachtree City. I am a retired physical therapist. And what I would like to hear is Dr. Marshman's comment on why he voted down the Board of Education budget. Dr. Marshman, back in, when he first ran, whenever that was, 8 years ago, something like that, he made a very valid statement. I believe that the Board of Education should always have some financial margin. They shouldn't operate on the edge of insolvency. The fund reserve balance should only be used for unexpected shortfalls. We should not ever plan to spend it. What are you going to do next year if the economy does not improve? The Board of Education must be constrained by its revenues. The federal government does not have the same constraints because they can print their own money. We are not the federal government. Marshman said the school board should always also seek to lower the millage rate. Charging the taxpayers the maximum allowable rate should be only done in times of financial crisis. Adding that as the economy recovers, the board should seek to reduce the taxpayer burden. I totally agree. Dr. Marshman, why did you vote against the Board of Education budget?
I think you just read why.
Pardon?
I think you just read why.
I can't hear you. I'm sorry. I don't hear very well.
I can talk to you later.
Okay.
This isn't a question and answer forum.
Okay. So why are we spending a lot more money on the board, on the school board? And I want to know also why we're building a school, another school, instead of reusing the Booth Middle School in Peachtree City. We lost out major the last time we did this kind of stuff. And we really need to be very fiscally responsible because right now the economy's thriving, but who's to say the economy isn't going to tank in the next year or so? And so then what happens? Do you know? Any comment? No. Okay. All right. Well.
But hang around after the meeting and we can chat with you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Disappointed in my constituents, so there's nobody here.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Hugh Talbert. I'm on the voter rolls. I live at 240 Ginger Cake Trail, Fayetteville, Georgia. And whose post am I in? They say post 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that area one that I vote on? Which one of you gentlemen's in my area? Would that be Mr. Pressburg?
It's probably me or Raybold, I'm not sure.
And I'm the at-large, so I'm one of them, and then there's another person as well.
Okay, I just wanted to see the face of the person that represented me. I'm glad, Dr. Marchman, that you made the comments you did in the Citizen that I read, because we need some kind of physical and financial restraint with a school board, because it's not free money. And like you said, you don't have a printing press. You have to tax the property owners and the voters. And one thing that came up, and I read the monthly rag that gets thrown out on the thing, the Citizen, because that's about the only local information I get. You never see me at a school board meeting, but I think I'm going to start, because I don't think any child in Fayette County should go without a good education. But I also think, like I said, we need financial and physical restraint with how you operate this system. And I did not like one comment that I picked up on back around February when somebody asked about building the new school and paying the money they're going to pay for the land down there on the edge of Peachtree City. And I think that the school board has been notorious with land deals. I think most of the voters do not agree, especially the senior citizens, with what's going on. I see the exemptions pushed up to about 20%. Dr. Barrow made that comment in the July 27th Citizen that, and when you make that comment, then you put senior citizens in this county on notice that you're looking at it, in my opinion. And I think that you can operate without doing that to the senior citizens. This county is graying. We have lost students. We have got a lot going on. And in the meeting on the 20th, Dr. Barrow and Mr. Pressburg made the comment that was, I'm quoting the paper or trying to paraphrase it, that let's talk about that later, and it didn't come up. And I've waited with bated breath to hear some public comments about building that school published, and there hasn't been any till right now. And this is the only time I can make the comment about the school, and I will. Peachtree City is blatantly known to want to keep their school children in Peachtree City, not let them be bused out in the county to any school. It's been going on since I've been in Fayette County for over 20 years. It was going on 20 years before I got here. I mean, you even have problems with people in Peachtree City not wanting to go to Starr's Mill, some of them. I mean, get real. It's just that you don't have the flexibility to draw boundary lines, but you have the legal responsibility to do that, to let people outside Peachtree City go to schools there and kids from in Peachtree City go to schools outside. In that comment now, I'm going to come back and say, at the same time that, let's talk about it later, Mike Satterfield, the facilities guy, had a comment, and it was at a board education, I'm paraphrasing, board education meeting, and it was a little under $20 million to build a facility at Booth and upgrade to make that school feasible to continue to be used. And that is $130 million less than building a new school. Now that makes me think that we don't have financial and physical responsibility going on and thinking this through. Today, the bond market in the world inverted. I don't know how many of you keep up with current events and with the politics in the world, and they're playing games. We all know that, but they're messing with money. I think it would be prudent to try not to spend everything, even have more reserve than you have your budget for. But I think that you said everything we've got on Splosh or whatever is going to go to buy the land down there. That's expensive land. Just buying the land. You know, it calls for an investigation to see who's getting all the kickbacks, in my opinion. That land ain't worth that kind of money. It just really isn't. And I think that somebody needs to be blatantly honest with you guys and say, think this through. But when you can fix that school for $20 million versus going out here and spending $130 million, I think some ego and narcissism needs to come off the shelf and be put on the shelf and quit putting it in the meetings and vote common sense. And I'll toast you there. I'll give you the rollback. We'll go back to the rollback. I'll give you inflation. I'll give you teacher salary increases and other things like that where, or the servants pay where they get a little raise every year and all that. I'll give you all that. But why did we hire, was it 150, 200, 100 teachers hired? It's $6.25 million. No, yeah, it's $12.5 million more than the budget for the 200 people you hired, from what I could extrapolate out of the Citizen. And that is, okay, so what are we doing? Are these people coming here to be in this facility, or are they out there in the classroom? If they're needed in a classroom, reducing the student ratio one kid don't seem to be a lot for the money you're spending. I was a supervisor at Delta, had a $10 million budget in my department, and I wrote it. So I'm not afraid of big numbers because they don't mean much to me. I bought $10 million airplane parts, so big deal. But it just seems to me that it just goes on and on. The senior citizens never come and make a comment, and I hope this gets published. Because they say, well, we don't need to vote but I think a voter votes the people that are, take their job seriously, and they're not in, like I say, the ego and narcissism business. They're in it for helping the kids and what's right for the school system. Try to get an appointment with any one of you guys, including Dr. Marchman, and I won't get past that because I can't. And I tried a couple of times to talk to you before and haven't. And you know, when you get legal advice from your counselors that you hire for the school board, they tell you the legal things you can do. But where's the moral and ethical things you do at? Are you just worried about the legal so you can get away with things? Or are we doing the moral and ethical thing for the taxpayers, the voters, and students with a budget? And to me, just doing the legal thing, sometimes morals and ethics go out the window. Not everybody's a Christian in this world. Everybody thinks differently, but we still need morals and ethics in your decisions. And talking about schools in the county, I read back through the copies in the last month, and I think you said somebody said there was overcrowding at McIntosh, Kedron, and at Booth Middle School. Okay. I think that $130 million that you wouldn't spend building new schools could help make the facilities better at McIntosh. I don't think you're going to build a $250 or $300 million building for McIntosh when you got all that facility there. You've got, counting the one in Tyrone, you have in Flat Creek, there's 5 schools, elementary schools, on the 74 corridor in Fayette County. Kedron's overcrowded, redraw the lines. Put some more kids at Oak Grove or at Peachtree City Elementary. That solves your problem. If you've got an empty school at Tyrone, draw the line and move more kids up there. Put a middle school in one of those buildings and spend a heck of a lot less money than you would building a whole new school. They've got one like you're wanting probably up in Gwinnett County they showed on the news. We're not in a race. We're wanting to supply an education to our children and get the most bang for the buck that we can. I can go into other detail, but I'll caution you, when you start putting us on notice as senior citizens about the 20% exemptions, we're going to start voting, and we're not going to be voting for splashes like we always have, because you guys are going to spend it all and want more. Just have some kind of reality with the way you do the budget. I'm not telling you to be a progressive or a conservative. I'm telling you to be realistic. And I think everybody in the county, including the children, would appreciate it. And I congratulate you on the nice school system we have. We were already world-class, Dr. Tobert, before you got here, and I know that's your phrase. We just need to keep on keeping on. We don't need to do more and more and more and spend money for things we need to make sure we stay where we're at and not lose. I'm sure the other counties are doing a lot. I grew up in Forsyth County. I have an uncle that used to be on the Georgia State Board of Education. And they did a lot in this, and I'm an older gentleman, and they did a lot with what little we had in Georgia to have a good education for children. And this county's done exceptionally well. We've had a great tax digest, but now we're graying. The airline industry changed. That changed some of the taxes and the people where they live and all this. But I think we can still handle things without building a new school. And I don't want to go into all the other, but it'd be interesting to see the federal government investigate all these land deals. And I'm not saying anything's wrong, but it'd be interesting because y'all make it hard for average people like me to know what you're doing. I would appreciate more openness from the school board. Maybe you don't have the time to meet somebody, but you could have more published information, the budget, it's online. You could make a comment in the paper, go to this website, see our meeting, see our taxes, see our proposed budget, see our comments as we prepared this. So we understand what you're doing. So when I come to this, I can be a lot more prepared than I am to make a comment. But thank you for giving me these few minutes. Okay, and I hope to make a wise decision.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Tobert, before you get away, one thing I would like to mention, and we're happy to sit down and meet with you anytime and go through all the questions that you've raised here with us. We want to be transparent. One thing that I think there's a little bit of confusion about, you've mentioned several times that a new school would cost $130 million. I'm not sure where that number came from.
That number came out of the land costs and the building costs that I pulled out of the Citizen in February, March of this year.
Okay.
And it may be more than that now, inflation. I understand that.
Sure.
No.
But our original, and I probably need to sit down with you, Mr. Gray, and I can sit down and show you all of the analysis that the board has done in getting ready to take a look at that. The final decision hasn't been made yet, but we were looking in the neighborhood of around 40 million, not 140 or 130. So there's $100 million offset there.
Well, that's
so
what I've read, and that's all I know, but I think
Yes,
a
sir.
building like that's going to cost more than 40 million.
Well, we hope to be able to find that out, and hopefully in September we'll have a report on that so that we can be public with it. We don't know what the cost is going to be until it goes out to bid.
Okay, can you tell me what the land's going to cost there?
The property that was purchased off Stagecoach was a little over $2 million.
$2 million?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the numbers are wrong in the Citizen that
Yes,
I
sir.
read then.
Yes, sir. So there's a, and I would be upset. I wouldn't be asking the board to build a school that cost $140 million.
Well,
That doesn't make sense.
Well, it's still you're saving 50% by fixing booths.
Well, and that's part of, if we can sit down with you, we'll be happy to walk you through that. These folks have done that.
I know
Yes,
you
sir.
have.
They've done a lot of due diligence, and even to today, we still have more information to get before that decision has been made.
Well, good. I'm
Yes,
glad to hear that. I'm glad
I'll
you're being
be
more
happy to
prudent.
walk you through that. I would also want to say this, please, and so all the senior citizens can hear this. We're not anti our senior citizens getting the exemption. That is something, though, that we have to look at. It's not like we're getting all of that money just for use here at the school district. 20%, close to the entire budget, or the digest is not available to us. But that's not the only thing we have to contend with. We have something that's called a 5-meal share that we send over 25 million to
To
the
the less
state. and we
poor
don't-
systems, I
Yes, sir,
understand.
that's correct. And we don't receive any of that money back. So on the one hand, we are a blessed community. We're very fortunate. Some people would call affluent. But on the other hand, because of the way the tax structure is set up, a lot of money goes out or a lot of money doesn't come into the district. And we're trying to be very prudent and reasonable, I will say that. But I'd love to be able to sit down and talk with you so that we can be real clear on the facts and not the misconceptions.
Okay, well, thank you for
Thank
that
you.
comment.
Yes, sir. Be happy to.
Thank you
Yeah.
for coming tonight.
Yep.
Well, I'm interested
Good.
about being a taxpayer and a voter, what's
Yes, sir.
going on.
Okay.
And that's where the real, where it hits the road. I hope there's somebody here writing these comments down. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would someone else like to come up and make a public comment? Last chance.
Going once.
Yeah, going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? We're adjourned.